Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I have Melanie here with me this afternoon, and we're going to be talking about Reiki, her Reiki experience. So, Melanie, let's just go ahead and get started. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself? How did you learn about Reiki, and why did you decide to move forward with Reiki?
Great. So, like I first said, my name is Melanie. I am in my early 40s, and I am a psychologist and a single mother by choice of two lovely little boys. I think I first heard about Reiki probably 10 years ago or so, just on television, people mentioning things, and kind of at the time thought, well, that seems kind of hokey, and who does that? Where would you even find someone who does Reiki? And didn't give it a lot of thought, but over time, I have really started to kind of experience more spiritual healing and tried to get more in depth with kind of finding myself and being able to kind of find those things that traditional Western medicine left me lacking. And so that opened my mind to acupuncture and essential oils and massage therapy. And eventually my chiropractor suggested Reiki. So that was kind of my opening the door into the Reiki experience.
All right, very good. So, your first Reiki experience, was that when you came to me?
Yes, it
All right.
was.
Well, why don't you kind of walk through because I think people are trying to understand what Reiki is and what they could expect if they came for a Reiki session. So, can you kind of just walk us through what was your first experience like? Like coming into the office, what did you have to do? How did you feel? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So I think the first time I did Reiki with you, I had signed up for a 20 or 30-minute session, something like that, just to kind of dip my toes in. And I had actually done acupuncture first in the same office. So I did my acupuncture first and then came into the Reiki room, not entirely knowing what to expect. But basically took my shoes off, laid down on a comfortable table. And I think you talked to me a little bit about what you were going to do. And without me giving you really any guidance, proceeded to do your magic. So I'm laying there with an eye pillow over my head, listening to some very calming music. And I remember the first 5, 10 minutes just going like, is something supposed to be happening? Should I be feeling something? And I think paying maybe too much attention. And then as the session went on, what I started to notice was just kind of reverberations in my body and some like pulsing, some relaxation. I don't think I fell asleep on the first time, but just to a very, very relaxed, almost hypnotic state. And then before I knew it, you kind of tapped me on the shin and said we were done. So it went by very quickly and very relaxing experience.
Yeah, so you had mentioned, a lot of times when people come in, if they want to talk to me about why they're there, we have those discussions. Sometimes people just want to come in and get the Reiki treatment, and that's fine too. So I kind of leave the door open to whatever whatever the person wants is wanting to talk about or not wanting to talk about, because really my job as a practitioner is just to be available to get the energy to you. And you mentioned it took probably about 5 minutes or so before you started feeling things. Um,
I think so, only because, like I said, I was really hyper focused on what I was going to be feeling. Like I wanted to, notice it as soon as something was happening. And I think that kind of got me into my head as opposed to being able to like be fully present in the moment. And once I kind of relaxed into it, that's when I did notice those sensations in my body.
oh, that's great. That's good for people to hear because I think sometimes whenever you come in for a Reiki session is just to try to take away any expectations. And like what you said, just relax into it and just be in that present moment and just feel what you feel or notice what you notice. And I think that's the best way to have that Reiki experience and to really feel it, right?
Yeah, because I think maybe it's one of those things that's difficult to explain to other people. And maybe is not the same for everybody, because I know my sister had done Reiki with you maybe a month prior, and she came back telling me about like some visions that she'd seen and how powerful and that it had been. And so I was laying on the table like, when am I going to have a vision? When am I going to have a vision? And it's not quite like that for me. I have, as we've progressed, seen some kind of visual experiences and had some of that, but it's certainly not like she does. But my experience with Reiki is still very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's different for different people, and it's just hard to explain.
I think it is different for different people because I get to hear what they felt and what their experiences were after, and Reiki delivers to the person exactly what they're needing at that time. So you should have gotten what you needed at that time. Can you describe a little bit more about your Reiki experience? What you
Mhm.
felt at the time, and then
Mhm.
maybe what you felt afterwards, any epiphanies you had afterwards.
Sure. So if I can back up just for a second, I think like some of the main targets that I was looking for going in was I've suffered from chronic pain for a long time, particularly in my shoulder and neck area. And so I was hoping that it could help with that. And then I also just carry with me a lot of stress. I have a high stress job. And like I said, I have two young boys, so they're constantly keeping me busy. And so those are the things that I was kind of hoping that I would be able to see some change in. And so as I lay on the table, I've done, I think, 3 sessions now. It starts much quicker. I don't have that 5 to 10 minute kind of stopgap where my head is looking for something. I almost immediately feel, kind of starting with my head and down my body, some pulsing reverberations. And then what I feel, and I don't know exactly quite how to describe it, so I'm going to do my best, is my body kind of meld, and I literally feel like you are pushing me, even though you're not touching me. I feel you pushing on me, and my body, my upper half of my body kind of twisting to the right and my lower half twisting to the left. And for whatever reason, I always see kind of the yin yang symbol when we're doing that. And so I kind of picture my body as becoming more balanced. And I don't know if that's just an epiphany I had, or if there's anything there, but that's kind of what I focus on. Other things that I've had, like I said, some kind of visual and auditory experiences where, I think the last time I felt very much like I was pregnant again with my second son. And I remember hearing somebody telling me they were placing my son on my lap, and then actually feeling heaviness in my pelvis region, like as somebody was putting my child onto me. I have had what I feel like are dreams. Whether I'm asleep or not, I'm not entirely sure, that I can't quite remember, but I experience as being very powerful. And then every time I've left, what I've noticed is that my pain stays away for a longer period of time. So I've tried acupuncture, chiropractic, massage therapy, cortisone shots. I've done everything that I could do for my shoulder, and this is the most pain-free that I have been in
Yay.
decades. So that's what I noticed the most, is coming away that I would kind of have the epiphany that, like, wait, I don't think I'm in pain right now. And I kind of do a body scan and okay, wow, this is really seems to be lessening for me over time. So that's been really the biggest thing. And then I think my stress level is going down too.
Okay, that's great. So let's go back to the chronic pain because you've had two Reiki sessions. Is that right? Two?
Three, yeah.
Three,
I've done
three.
two
Okay.
hour longs and then the first one.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, the first time you did Reiki and that chronic pain went away, how long was it before you felt like you needed to come back? Like, did you start getting pain back, after a certain amount of time? Was it less pain? What can you tell us about that?
I think it was, I don't know that I had a discrete period of no pain after the first session. After my first hour long session with my second one, it was when later in the afternoon, I realized I was not in any pain. And anywhere in my body. And that stayed gone for about 2.5, 3 weeks. So around that time, I started to get that same little nag that I get kind of in my neck that triggers all of my other arm problems. But it took, I would say, at least 2.5, 3 weeks. And then I'm still pretty much pain-free after my third session, which I think
Yay.
was a couple weeks ago. So
Okay, great. So let's keep monitoring that, because what I suspect and what I've seen is, coming 3 to 4 times in this small amount of time, that'll help that'll help relieve all of that eventually. But what I've noticed is that people will, the time frame will start getting longer and longer, if it comes back. Hopefully, we've got it all taken care of, but we'll see, right? So we'll kind of
I'm open.
monitor that and see what happens.
Well, I think you're probably going to talk about this later, but so excuse me if I'm jumping ahead. But one of the things too that I've noticed is since I've been really mindful during my Reiki sessions is that I'm getting better at being able to kind of recreate that experience at home. So I use the Insight Timer app, I find Reiki music, and I will meditate with that. And I picture that same kind of body twisting that I experienced with you. And I find that I can kind of put myself back into that zone. Maybe not
Mhm.
as powerfully, but I can at least kind of have that same mental experience.
Yes, that's good. And that's good for people who are listening, because you can, once you go through the experience, you can connect back to how that feeling was and bring that good energy back to you, to where you can start doing that self-healing more on your own. So that's awesome that you're doing that already, because that's a great thing to be able to do for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been being real. I practice a lot of mindfulness, so I think it's just being able to kind of know what that feeling is and to be able to kind of go back to that place and know how my body felt, and that gets me into it. And then if I can kind of stay in that meditative state, then I can feel that my energy starts to heal on its own. At this point, I'm not ready to give up you yet, though.
Yeah, keep coming for a while, but I think you're gonna get this all on your own, which is really what I'm trying to do with, to help people, is not to always have to have them come back over and over again, but just to, for a short amount of time, so then you can go off on your own and be able to do this all on your own. It's difficult to start on your own by yourself when you don't have those initial first experiences, right? So
Yes.
um, but the mindfulness is super important. And I have talked about this whenever I've had other people on for testimonials, that, as a Reiki energy healer, we can help clear and balance some of those energies. But really, doing the inner work, what I mean by inner work is the mindfulness and really paying attention to your thoughts and paying attention to what you're doing. That's the inner work that people have to do too, in order to fully heal and to move on with the life that they want. So I'm glad to be hearing what you're saying, because that's exactly what we want for people.
Good.
So do you have any recommendations or suggestions for people on how they can start being mindful or doing that inner healing on their own? Because I think that's important as well, and people do it different ways. So
Absolutely. For me, the easiest way to get started is to make sure you're doing it in small chunks. You can't jump into mindfulness and expect to be able to do it for, very long periods of time. So just give yourself a minute. And my initial is always to focus on my breath and to try to clear my thoughts in my mind. If I have a thought, I just let it kind of pass in front of me and move on, and focus back on breathing in and breathing out. Just like I said, trying to kind of be present in the moment. And then kind of moving beyond that, you can extend that from 1 minute into several minutes, as much really as you are comfortable with. But I think as you move on, you can start to focus more on different things. So one of the things that I focus on is different parts of my body, for example, noticing where I have pain, noticing where I have even like tickle or different experiences like that, and seeing how long they last, or seeing if they fade over time. So it's really, I think, just kind of for me being more in touch with my body and my sensations. But you can do mindfulness with almost anything. Eating a piece of chocolate cake, which I've been known to do, or just feeling what an M&M feels like in your mouth before you bite into it. Like there's all kinds of different things where you just kind of slow your mind down and focus on just this moment or just this experience.
Yeah, and I like how you said just start slow, right? Because people do have a hard time just trying to focus or just to not have all these thoughts floating in their head. And I would give the same advice as what you just said is just start slow. I mean, if you can do it for 30 seconds to a minute where you can sit and relax and just be without having any of these thoughts floating around everywhere, you just start from there, and then you work your way up, and it really really makes a difference. Um,
Yeah, and I think like accepting that, you know, I've been doing mindfulness, gosh, probably 10 years now. I'm a dialectical behavior therapist by trade. And so like when I teach mindfulness to my patients when I did therapy. So like I've been doing this for a long time, and I still have worried thoughts that come into my mind if I'm trying to be mindful. And so we just have to accept that that's going to happen and not dwell on it or not judge it. So like I said, the thought comes into your mind and just let it float away. And then
mhm.
refocus on your breath or whatever it is you're focusing in the moment. And then you get better at it over time.
Yeah, and that's perfect because we're humans, right? We're going to have emotions. Worries will come in, but you just let that thought flow out because
Exactly.
that's not going to be so harmful as if a worry comes in and you're dwelling on it. You just keep circulating it over and over in your mind because eventually you start internalizing that. And
Mhm.
that's what creates your energy balance to become, not in balance anymore. So just let those
Well,
thoughts come in and flow out. So let it
and as a
go,
person
right?
who's really prone to anxiety and prone to worried thoughts, I think that, like I said, it's a constant, I don't want to say battle because it seems a little bit more dramatic, but it is something that I constantly deal with.
Uh-huh.
So when I notice that I'm getting too worried or I'm getting too stressed out, I know that I need to take some time for myself. And Reiki is one of those things that I've now come to enjoy and build into my schedule. Where it is time for me, it's time to relax, and it's time to reset.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. All right. Is there anything else that you can think of that people may want to know or that would be helpful for them based on, your experiences so far?
I think the only thing that I would add is that, like I have long considered myself a scientist. And when I started my kind of spiritual, mindful journey a few years back and started doing kind of some of these more, what we would in the Western Hemisphere consider more untraditional healing practices,
Mm-hmm.
what I have found is I just have told myself, hey, if it works, it works. I don't have to have a reason. Maybe it's not that the energy in my body is realigning, or maybe it's not my chi is off, but if it works and I can get to a place where it's helpful to me, I'm going to try things. And over time, what started there has become much more open-minded and accepting of just allowing what I don't understand to help me. So I don't think you have to necessarily, if you think it sounds kind of hokey to begin with, that's okay. Go give it a shot. If all you do is lay on a table and you feel super relaxed when you leave, that's still healing on your body. So, but you might just have a really powerful experience too. And I just think it's been so beneficial for me that I would recommend it to anyone to at least give it a try.
All right, that's great. Thanks for sharing that with us too. And I think what's great about Reiki is that you don't have to believe it to come
Right.
try it. But once you come try it and you can experience it, then it kind of opens the door to wow, what else is there out there that I may not be open minded to? That's what I'm
Exactly.
seeing people go through, right? So
Exactly.
it is, Reiki is very healing. And I'm hoping with these videos that we're putting out that people will understand that we understand that, yeah, at first maybe we kind of questioned it too until we understood a little bit more about it. And now we realize how healing it is. So just trying to make awareness for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today. And hopefully this will help someone that's out there.
I
So,
hope so. Well, thanks for
yeah.
giving me the opportunity to talk about myself. I always enjoy that.
No problem. Well, thank you. And I'll be seeing you soon, right?
Yes, you will. I think we've already got it on the books.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, thank you.
Great.
Have a good
Thanks,
afternoon.
Jennifer.
All
You
right. Bye
too.
bye.